Hey there, so today we have another beer talk, and this is an update to my Trillium wage controversy video. And there were a lot of divided points about this, and some people didn't agree with my opinion. And I will say I apologize about some of the points that I made, and I've sort of retooled my opinion, and I want to give it to you guys right now. So first off, I will say I made a big mistake. I came from at this with the completely wrong perspective. So I was thinking about it with the bartender brain, as someone who makes decent tips, as someone that people expect to tip. I expect to make tips. And I sort of muddled the situation. I don't know why I did it, but this Trillium wage controversy issue deals specifically with retail. So literally we're talking about a kind of situation where, you don't tip your supermarket grocer, you don't tip your Walmart employee, your Macy's employee. This is literally the person that, hands you a case of beer and you walk out and put it in your car. That's it. And I'd say most people don't tip on those kind of transactions. But this is a now huge kind of miscommunication. So, walk into a brewery, you expect this person to be paid minimum wage, and you buy the beer and you walk out, and maybe you tip, a little money here and there, and that's it. But then the employer is paying the employee a tipped minimum wage. So in this situation, Massachusetts minimum wage, $11 an hour. Massachusetts minimum wage for tipped employees, $3.75. So all of a sudden, the employer is telling you, oh yeah, we're going to pay you less than minimum wage. We're going to pay you $3.75 an hour. Trillium was paying $5 to $8 an hour, and we expect you to make enough for tips. Well, that's a huge difference because the consumer doesn't know. If somebody spent $150 at my bar, I would expect to make some tips. And if they've left $1 or $2 or zero tips, I would be so angry. But if you do that to a Trillium employee, imagine buying a couple of cases of beer, you tip zero, $1 or $2, and you walk out. Holy smokes, what have we been doing this whole time? So I don't even know what I've been doing this whole time. So I usually tip a few dollars when I buy a case of beer, but then have I just been tipping reasonably because they're being paid decently? Or have I just been a really bad tipper because they're making $3.75 an hour, $5 an hour, $8 an hour, and I really need to be tipping? I really don't know. And so now we're up to over 7,000 breweries in this country, and this is not a specifically Trillium issue. We have 7,000 breweries in this country, and still consumers don't know what's going on. The brewery really needs to communicate to consumers what's going on, because this is all at the loss of the employee, because the employee is being treated as a retail person and they're being paid not accordingly and not tipped accordingly. So it's just super crazy what's going on. So consumers really need to pressure breweries to let them know, oh yeah, by the way, this employee is being paid decently fairly, minimum wage, or at least, and tips are simply gratuity. Or, hey, listen, we can only pay this person less than minimum wage, and you really need to tip because that's what we're paying them for. That's the only amount we're paying them. So, two big things, and I think that's the big issue here. So really, next time you go to a brewery, I guess you have to ask the brewer, the owner, or the person working behind the counter, hey, by the way, are you a tipped employee or are you making a decent living? Because this way I need to know, because I need to tip accordingly, because that really sucks if this employee is just making $3.75 an hour and people don't expect to tip them, then they're barely being tipped. That's absolutely crazy in my mind. Anyway, I wanted to jump through a little bit of a thought exercise, sort of, in my position, what I would do. So imagine I'm talking to JC right now, which would be crazy. But so I work with a company that has multiple locations. Granted, I work as a bartender, not a retailer, so it's a little bit confusing. But sort of the conversation goes this way. It's hey, Darwin, so we are opening up a new location and we would like to hire you, but we actually need to re-interview you. So actually, what happened is that these employees were re-interviewed for this new position, which is crazy. You've already been hired for a job, you've already interviewed, you've already been working for this company, and you have to re-interview for this new location. That's absolutely crazy. I know some places have a lot of turnover. Some places care about your performance. Some industries have sort of a reevaluation, all that crazy stuff. That just sounds a little new to me in this industry. I don't think that's really a thing. So I honestly would feel quite disrespected if I have to go to another interview while I'm working for the same company, getting the same position and same job. That's absolutely crazy. So anyway, that aside. So anyway, we are opening up a new location and we'd like you to work there. If you do get hired, we will say that we will be changing your wage. You'll be dropping from $8 an hour to $5 an hour, but we're hoping that the tips at least compensate for that difference, and hopefully you'll be making more. So I will say that I was deflating how much money that meant before. I was saying, oh, it's only $20 an hour. But if you do that as a 40-hour week and 50 weeks in a year, that is $6,000. That's a lot of money a year. So we're talking about a base pay of $16,000 to $10,000 an hour. That's $6,000 a year. It's a big difference. But, when I hear that, I sort of go thinking about, all right, JC, well, I really hope this place really makes up for the money, because that's a big amount of money, and I really think that's significant. And the tips are really going to have to make it up for me. So again, like, I really care about my bottom line. Like, that's sort of where my logical brain goes. I just don't really care about how much Trillium is paying me. Part of me goes like, yeah, that's pretty BS. You're dropping my wage, but you're opening up a new place. That's sort of like where my brain goes. But in the end, like, if my end of week check is bigger, there's a new location, I'm getting quote unquote promotion, I guess, if I'm making more money, if I'm making more money, great. That's, sounds good to me. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, making more money, like, that sounds good. Like, that's all I can say. This also brings up another thing. Then my brain also goes to like, whoa, like, how much do I want to stay at Trillium? And so this is actually a significant issue to think about, because Trillium's name on your resume is priceless. So a lot of these people on the retail side, I assume this is one of their first positions in industry, if not their first position in industry, and hopefully they use that as a stepping stone to get to another position. And having that Trillium name on your resume is huge. I mean, I've personally spent a lot of money and a lot of hours studying, for Certified Cicerone and getting educated about beer. And then also I've just lost thousands and thousands of dollars choosing specific positions, choosing specific places to work for, making decisions in my career to hopefully further my career. So I would say a lot of employers, and I would say most employers, actually care a lot more about sort of flashy names like where you've worked, and less about like, oh, what you've done at where you've worked. So a name like Trillium is just absolutely priceless. So when that happens, and JC and I had that conversation, I started thinking about it, like, wow, so how long have I been with Trillium? How much does this brewery mean to my resume? And I sort of have to take that into value. And you sort of have to take that into value when you consider working in this industry, because it hugely affects where you end up working next. So, A, I think about bottom line. I better be making more money. B, I think about, the Trillium brand name and what that means for my resume. And then C, the worst case scenario, this does not work out. Imagine I start working at the new location and all of a sudden my check is just less because Trillium cut my hourly and the tips didn't make up for it, and that's crazy. So that's when I really get angry. I'm on the side of the Trillium employees if that happens, because then I walk up to JC and I go, listen, buddy, you dropped my wage and you told me that I'd be making, equal or more money, and now I'm just making less money. I need that money back. Like, you're gonna have to change my hourly back, because that's like not fair to ask somebody to re-interview you for a job, get to a new location, and then pay them less. Like, that's like a demotion at a company. That's crazy. Like, I would not want that. So I'd be on the side of the employees for that. But generally, yeah, hopefully it would just mean that I was making more money or equal amounts of money, and it's a new location and blah, blah. So, but thankfully Trillium has changed that. And again, the walk away for this one is you got to start finding out how much your retail employees are being paid at your brewery, because there is a big issue here, because Trillium's not the only one. There are breweries that are in Massachusetts and throughout the country that are probably paying the federal minimum wage. I think the federal minimum wage for tip-to employees is under $3. So, I mean, it's so crazy how drastically different people can be paid. So are you a minimum wage employee, or are they paying you a decent wage? Or like, I really need to tip you, because I really need to know that. And there's a huge miscommunication between breweries and consumers over that. So yeah, post in the comments below what you think. But like, this is like the huge new perspective that I have on this. Like, next time I go to a brewery, I literally need to ask somebody, like, it's like, oh, like, do I need to tip you? Or like, is it just something to be nice about? Because literally that's a huge difference. So post in the comments below about what you think. Until next time, guys, cheers, later.